Ilja GOOSSENS, who's our next speaker, and he talks about a very interesting topic. Personally, I'm very interested in that topic because I'm working with my own studio also on IPs, and his talk is about working as an independent developers with IP, and the pros and cons of working with IPs. And I know it's pretty tough sometimes to work with IPs from my personal experience, so I'm pretty much looking forward. So have a warm welcome to Ilja.
Oh, thank you. Okay, this session is about my experience as an indie developer of working with external IP. I think I've got an interesting story to share because my previous venture was completely built around making games, online entertainment for kids, based on existing IP. And what I want to do is actually use the post-mortem for my company and our biggest project as a guideline in this session, because it all looks very nice working with existing IP, and it is, but it also can backfire, and that is actually what happened with me. And to relate with the previous speaker, I've had the same experience, same time period, 4 years of hard work, and in the end we filed for bankruptcy. But the experience was great, so that's what I liked about the previous speaker, is that everything negative can have something positive. I've worked on multiple titles based on existing IP, and why we did it. When we started the company, there were quite some companies moving into the space of online entertainment for kids. This was 2007, pre-Facebook, pre-homogeneous smartphone market, so the distribution model was completely different. And we needed to find a way to actually head start the company and to have an advantage over other products to actually propel the user database, because that's key for everyone. How do you get as many users as possible in a short amount of time? So for us, we decided to focus on an age group of kids, 8 to 12, that was the core. Let's say that you take 6 to 14. So what I want to do is go through the steps from the initial concept, the funding of the company, until the end, which is unfortunately not a very happy end. There are a few main advantages over working with existing IP. Actually, you have 3 main choices if you want to have a head start. That's basically A, huge marketing budget, B, have a good publisher which is going to put a lot of effort in promoting your game, or C, working with the IP and a trusted brand. We chose for trusted brands because actually working with kids is 2 target demographics. One is the kid who's going to play the game, and the other one is the parent who's going to pay for the game. And this is a very important part of the monetization of kids games, because the kid itself is not going to pay for it. So they have to convince the parent actually to start paying for the product. And well, if I refer to myself, I rather pay for a product of a brand that I know, even in technology, Apple or Samsung, you prefer that over some kind of unknown brand. So I think that works the same with digital goods. Of course, if you work with existing IP, you tap into an existing user base immediately. You don't have to build the user base from day one. So if you can reach out to this audience and you can convert them to a player, they already know what to expect. They know the creativity, the characters, the environment. So I think that's one of the main reasons to go for existing IP. Of course, you have multiple ways IPs are used. You have TV, comic books, merchandise, games, and I've mainly worked with IP based on cartoon series and magazines. We've made one game based on a very popular gaming franchise, which I will refer to later, but that's different. For me also, the creative resources are very important, because if you want to start a game, you can conceptualize forever basically. If you want to create an IP and you start thinking about what am I going to make, what's my target audience, how is the world going to look like, how are my characters going to look like. Benefit of having an IP is mainly that has been done, and it has been proven, because it's successful. People are looking at it, buying it. So I think that's very nice. And also as an indie developer, if you launch a game, you don't have that much publicity, or you got to be lucky a bit. But if you build a game based on an existing brand, that will generate a lot of publicity from day one. Even when we signed the first contract, you get already a lot of publicity because people find it interesting. And especially in 2007, we were a bit, we call it the weird duck in the Dutch, I don't know why, but nobody was actually really looking into transforming their physical or TV brand into an online game. So the pitch was quite hard. There were no digital strategies, or now everyone is building actually their own game, and so that has changed a lot. Well, what I said, we focused on kids between 8 and 12. So then you have to start defining, okay, what are the main points that my IP has to relate to. Target demographic, distribution model we chose for free-to-play and subscriptions. Browser-based, so it's not a boxed product. So all these factors make it important if you go and scout IPs. But this is actually the most important slide, I think, for working with IP, is the IP owner. How do you build a relationship with the IP owner? Because we were a startup, actually pre-funding, with just a good idea, a good pitch, because actually we enhance an existing product, we generate additional revenue, and we actually pay for it ourselves. So that's a pitch that they couldn't refuse. But I found out that it's very important to do the IP justice, but also to do something different, not just state the obvious and say, okay, we're going to translate the ID one-on-one to a game. I think you can be a lot more creative. I'll show some presentations we've made later. We always looked at an extension of the product and an enhancement of the existing product, so not just translating it. What you see a lot is, well, these days with games also, every game is exactly the same on each device, and I think that you should adapt it to the environment you play a game in. And what is also very important for an IP owner, it's not just about the money. That's my experience, because when we made the short list of IPs we wanted to use for building a world, on top of the list was the Smurfs. We negotiated the deal for quite some time. We even made an upfront minimum guarantee offer for 1 million euros, and they didn't even take it, unfortunately. Later they went with Capcom, and Capcom made, well, the best top grossing game on the iPad in that time. So that was unfortunate, but they just didn't know if we as an indie company could actually maintain the quality and had the same passion for the brand as they did. So they weren't looking at the money, they were looking at how can we extend the brand to a new platform. This is what we've done. We actually scouted some IP, and I want to show you two projects we've worked on which we actually didn't close, but then you get an idea on how I approach existing IP translating to a new digital platform. And then 3 products I've built which are actually, well, they were live games back in the days. This is a good example. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it's an evergreen IP. Of course, you have all kinds of IP, evergreens, highly popular IP, which is now popular, but in 2 years it will fade out. It's not interesting for game developers, but because you need about 2 years to develop the game and then a few years to monetize. So it's really hard to take those brands. Funny was that we actually were having a monetization model where Unilever was distributing chocolate bars with wrappers. And the wrappers like the golden ticket in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So we had an additional, so we had 3 partners in this. That was actually the Dahl Foundation, Unilever and ourselves. And the idea was not to play the book or play the movie. Everybody knows it. But we wanted to continue where the book and the movie stopped. So Charlie had the Chocolate Factory and the kids had to play the game and help Charlie to maintain the factory. And what it happens instantly is that people have the feeling that they are part of the story. And that's always what I'm looking at with IP, is how can you make people feel that they're actually part of the story. Well, we made a book. It was a pop-up. The idea was that when you read the book, you get into the book, and then you are actually in the book. So the other one is Duckburg Online. This is a Disney product. We were close to the deal, but you can't work with Disney basically. It's impossible with only about the chat. We had a fist book thick of legal lines, and so we decided that we weren't doing it. But it's really evergreen IP. And why did we choose Duckburg and not Mickey Mouse? Mickey Mouse is really American. Duckburg is very European, so it was easier to close that deal. Americans don't get Donald Duck because he's a bit of a loser and sarcasm, and they tend to prefer the winners. But again, the presentation was good. We made a magazine. The monetization model was that we had a deal with the European publisher of all the magazines. They were going to have a surcharge of €1 each week for the paper copy, and that would gain you a subscription for the online model, because we were looking at new monetization models, because it was free-to-play really didn't exist that much. So we created a whole world. And why I want to show this is because we show the IP owner that we knew how to handle their brand, that we were true to their brand. And I think that's what they want to see. They want to see the passion that they put into the brand to build it and to make it valuable, that you actually can extend it and that you know what you're talking about. I like Donald Duck. It was my favorite project because you have so many backstories, the Woodchuck Forest, the harbor, the nephews. The idea was that you became one of the 4 nephews. And but we also wanted to show that you can modernize it, because Duck is pretty old. And this is actually what we've made, an avatar creator where you can make a girl or boy duck and actually do justice to the duck. So we don't change the duck. You never play with the main characters in the IP, but they're part of the world you're actually in. Well, we negotiated a deal with Alphanim. It's a French animation studio. Closing the deal is pretty hard for a licensing deal, especially worldwide. And it's basically about 2 things, money and creativity. And the money, you should let someone else do the money talk, actually, because it's very hard to separate the two. We were in a bit of a hurry with closing the deal, because the main reason why was the investor needed to have a deal signed before a certain date, otherwise he wasn't going to fund the company. So then if you're in a hurry, that's never a good situation to be in if it's actually if you need something from someone. But it's about upfront guarantees, revenue shares, what can you do with the IP. This is a French company, we went to their office quite some times. What we did, we took our attorney, they did the legal stuff, and we sat down with the creative team to see what creative conditions we could create to actually create the cross promotion, because I think that's the main reason to work with existing IP. This was actually a TV show on Jetix, #1 in the whole of Europe. And what we've done is actually created an environment, a training school. The series is about football. There are 11 planets in a solar system somewhere, and they play football. And what we've done is created a spaceship called Club Galactic, and all talents from the galaxy came together in that spaceship to be trained, to play games, to interact with each other. And that was actually in the TV show as well. So everybody who signed up for the game was actually part of the TV series. And we had all kinds of cross promotions, as there was a competition of designing a ball. And actually the winner, the ball would be used in the final episode of that series. So we always were looking for the best way to enhance both products. This is the end product. Just a short trailer, if it plays. Don't know, it's not that important, because it was just to give you a brief idea of what we've done to the property. And I think we were very close to the look and feel of the original series. We designed the spaceship which was actually used in the series, so that's nice. Another one that we've worked on was, this is actually my, that was what was good for the company, was called Hero World, was based on Guitar Hero. By Activision. The idea was that they had console games, and on the console you played the music, DJ Hero, Guitar Hero, Band Hero, and we came up with the concept that you actually play the life of an artist on stage on your console, and off stage you played it in Hero World, which is a browser-based world. And the idea is become Jay-Z, clothing line, your own label, interact with other people, run your own club. And we had a currency exchange. So currency you earned on the console was used in the online world and vice versa. And also the avatars were interchangeable. And what for us was very important is all Hero products would contain a code. You go online and you unlock special items with the code on the product. So it's double value when you buy it. This is how it looked. We worked with Daft Punk and Lady Gaga and Neptunes, because you can use all their brands you can use in the world. This was actually an awesome product until I got a phone call that they cancelled Guitar Hero. Who considers a multi-billion-dollar franchise to be killed overnight? Well, that happened to me, and that was a bit of a pity. So this is the project I actually launched last week. It's based on a TV series. So you see it's movies, books, TV series, it's all kinds of IP, and I tried to find actually the best outlet for it. This is a TV series about identity theft. It had a feature film, now it's a mini-series, and what happens in the series is some guy's identity is stolen, someone gets run over by his car, and he's gonna find out who's behind actually the crime. And what we've done is created an online real-time adventure, which actually follows the characters out of the series, but you get an assignment after each episode. Somebody says, hey, I found out that he did this, you help me find him. And then you actually go in the classic adventure mode, talk to everyone, find clues. So we try to find for every IP a good outlet, and I think this is, it was a bit of a pressure, which is one of the other downsides of working with IP. You have a concept, and then suddenly the IP owner starts interfering with game design, gameplay, and this is actually one of the main challenges. Of course, the guys from Activision know how to make a game, so if they suggest something to do with the game, you listen. But if a guy who makes a feature film tells you that he wants suddenly just Facebook Connect friends displaying on a map and it doesn't add anything to the gameplay, then and you ask, yeah, why do you want to do it? Yeah, just because I like it. That's the kind of answers you get. So that's pretty hard to work with. And that's actually why I want to sum up the pros and the cons. Overall, I didn't have a very good experience. I like the projects to work on, but unfortunately, actually all the games I funded myself based on existing IP failed. So maybe it's me just making bad games, but I hope it's different, because I think we made very good products. But the problem is that the distribution you actually depend on from an IP owner, you don't have any control. So the pros are, you have an existing user base, it's a trusted brand, so people start paying sooner. Distribution and publicity, the backstory, and your reference and source material. Because for our online game Club Galactic, we had so many artwork races that we could just use one-on-one in our game. So that was a huge advantage. Then we get the cons. Actually, there are more cons, as you see. You don't have control over the outlet. What happened to Club Galactic was that we didn't have a performance target for the IP owner. They were #1 show on Jetix in the whole of Europe. Jetix got bought by Disney, and Disney killed the show because it was third-party content, and they killed third-party content. So my whole distribution model was gone. And that's what you depend on, because we didn't have the marketing budget. They were going to do the marketing, and we're going to make the product. And you spend a lot of time and money on the product, and then they don't spend the time and money on the marketing. What I said, does the IP owner knows anything about games, and does he want the influence on it? And to get to the takeaways right away, you have to find the right IP for the right platform. I think you have to convince the IP owner with a killer presentation and build trust. then you have to actually set performance targets for the IP owners, because not only you have to perform, but I think in return they have to perform as well. This is the best lesson I've learned. Don't be too hasty, get your legal peep done, be original, and make sure that you make a good game, because everything we've made was good, very good actually. So it wasn't the product, it was the distribution. But I think if I hear every story of every indie developer that failed, it's all about distribution. Well, 90% is distribution, and some games are just not good. So that's basically, I'm working on my own IP now for the first time, basically. So that's the difference. So that's it. Thank you.
We have some time for some questions. Any questions for Ilja here? So in the audience, so okay, there's one.
So I wanted to ask, what IP rights do you license if you build an IP-based game? Are you going for the trademarks, or are you also talking about copyrights, or does it depend on what the IP owner wants?
Yeah, it depends totally on the IP and what you want with the IP. For Club Galactic, we had the full rights to make online games worldwide, which is a very broad spectrum of, but you can't own the copyrights. But for Hero World, we had a co-production deal, so we didn't have any rights. We basically were allowed to build the game, and they had to approve everything. But that's because they were a very restrictive publisher. But I can imagine, because the brand's also big, so it also depends on how big is the company behind the IP. I think that's very important, and that's actually what I forgot to tell. What I underestimated is the power of the brand itself. The Galactic Football was not a very strong brand where people would actually start Googling Galactic Football game, while Smurfs and Disney properties, people would find it without your distribution. So I think that's also very important for the deal you make. So.
Okay, I think we have time for a last question now. So, you would never ever again work with IPs, or are there any tips? So I know you were really aiming at the big ones, so at Guitar Hero and at Disney brands. So
yeah, I will do it again. And
is there any differentiation? Any tips? What you should do when you plan to work with brands?
Yeah, I think it's. I would do more co-production, so that there is a mutual benefit in the distribution of your product, because the games I've done were basically self-funded, licensed, and then you have the problem that of course they're gonna get money in the end, but they don't put any money in the product, so the dependency, they don't care that much. Actually, that's your secondary interest of the IP owner. That's what I've noticed, but I think times have changed a bit, because they see, especially Disney sees how important it is to have a digital outlet for their products. But then again, Disney has a lot of problems with monetizing well. So it's just really hard. But I just launched another game based on IP, but that was luckily a work for hire where I just got the money. So, but self-funding a new project based on existing IP, then it would be only a AAA brand like for Disney or Nickelodeon, or that's what I would do.
Okay, and what do you think about skinning an existing game with a brand? So if you have already a game ready and you skin it with a brand, would that be a good idea in your opinion? Or I know, of course, you have to pay royalties then,
yeah.
and but
well, it depends. I heard the story today that somebody is actually charging money for brands to be in their game, so that's also a possibility. But I think it's for me that's not the main business model, and I think it can really enhance your brand if you look at games as Go Supermodel, where it's all about brands basically, then it's very valuable to have an existing brand which actually enhances your product. But just building from scratch a game based on an IP, well, we all know how much time and effort it takes. I have decided to actually start my own, build my own IP now, and that's not without a reason, of course.
Okay, thanks a lot,
Yeah,
Ilja.
thank you.